Okay, in this video, we're going to try our hand at making a pineapple orange melomel using, of course, pineapples, an orange, and some orange blossom honey. Now, a few other ingredients, but basically those are the main ones. Hi, I'm Charles and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. To make our pineapple orange melomel, we will be using the following. We're using 2 to 2.5 pineapples. I'm going to be using a Red Star Premier Blanc wine yeast for this particular one. Reason being, it's now summertime at the time of this video, and I needed something that had a higher tolerance for heat, and this ranges anywhere between 60 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which works out to 15.6 and 32.2 degrees centigrade for you non-imperial folk. Has an ABV of approximately 15%. Now, if you don't have it, hey, use whatever you got. 2.5 pounds, or in this case, 2.6 pounds of orange blossom 100% raw honey. 2 oranges, one of which we are going to zest, but we're going to use the juice of both. About a tablespoon of brown sugar. About half a cup of chopped raisins. 1 black tea bag, which we'll make about a half a cup of black tea with, which is going to be our tannin substitute. We're going to use the juice of 1/2 of 1 lemon, which is going to act as our acid blend substitute. We'll need enough water to give us up to 1 gallon of total measure. We'll need something to do primary fermentation in, preferably something with a wide mouth opening so we can get in our straining bags. We'll need something to do secondary fermentation in, because after about 5 to 7 days in primary, we need to rack it into our secondary container. This container just happens to be used at the moment with a strawberry mead, which I'm going to probably bottle before the end of primary is done. So I'll be using that jug, demijohn, carboy, take your pick. I'm going to need an airlock with stopper. The primary fermenter already has a built-in airlock, so I won't need one for that. I will need a couple of straining bags to hold all of our fruit while in primary. A hydrometer to let us know our starting gravity and our ending gravity so we can tell how much alcohol we've produced. And last, but certainly not least, our sanitizer of choice, whether you're using Star San or One Step or whatever. Make sure that all of your equipment has been cleaned and sanitized, ready for use. No problems later on. And that's what I'm going to be using to make this melomel. I'm going to cut off the crown. And the base. Stand our pineapple up and remove the skin. That having been done, it's just a question of how we want to slice and dice these up. Let's start by cutting it somewhat, sort of in half. And starting with the small one, we can cut them into little wedges. That one was kind of juicy. And then cut our little into smaller slices. Again, be very careful. And if you want to give those more of a rough chop, please feel free. And we will now get that into one of our straining bags, which is always kind of fun because these things are definitely on the slippery side. Like I said, always kind of fun. Now in this part of the process, we're going to chop up those raisins. It doesn't have to be a fine chop, but a good rough chop will do it. Now the Raisins, of course, are being used to add a little additional flavor and body to the wine. It's not being used as a yeast nutrient, although if it does provide any sort of nutritional value to the Melomel, that'll be fine by me. Okay, that should be good enough. And we'll go ahead and get those in the bags. All right, we want to go ahead and zest one of our oranges. And let's go ahead and get those in one of our straining bags. Yep. All we need to do now is just tie the bags off and get them ready for the pot. All right, at this stage of the operation, we just want to do a couple of simple things. We want to start the process of our tannin substitute. Drop in our black tea bag and pour in about half a cup of water. No need to be precise. We can go ahead and put a cover on that. And as far as our remaining water is concerned, got to remember we've got 3 bottles of honey that we're adding to this. So we're going to add about roughly half of our water. Or thereabouts. Let's put a cover on that. And let's bring this up to a boil. As far as our tea mixture is concerned, we want to bring that up to a simmer. We don't want to bring that up to a boil because if we forget about it, we start looking in the pot, we got nothing but tea particles floating all around, and we don't want that. So just bring it up to a simmer. All right, now that our water has had a chance to come up to a nice, good boil. Careful, it's hot. We're going to go ahead and add our fruit. And the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and add in our tea/tannin substitute. Go ahead and turn off the heat, and all we need to do really is make sure that our fruit is down in there. And let's just go ahead and put our cover on. And we're going to let the temperature come down quite a bit, because the next thing we want to do is that we want to go ahead and add in our honey. So while this is cooling down a bit, we're going to go ahead and put our honey in some hot water so it will flow a bit more easily. And then we'll come back to it. All right, now that our pineapple orange mixture has come down a little bit in temperature, I mean, it's still a bit hot. I mean, you can put your hand on it and leave it there. So it's kind of like real warm sort of thing. We're going to go ahead and incorporate our honey and our brown sugar. Speaking of which, let's move the brown sugar where it will do some good. Now again, as I said earlier, we had the honey sitting in hot water. Changed it twice to make it easier to flow. Not that everything's going to come out of the bottle, but we're going to rinse the bottles out and make sure we got all of that, in my opinion, expensive honey in the pot where it will do the most good. Now again, the purpose of putting the fruit into the hot water was just primarily to help kill off any stray bacteria that might have made its way on there, and to some degree kill off any harmful bacteria. Since we're not using sulfites, every little bit helps. The cover back on and allow it to come down to room temperature before moving on to the next step. Now that our juice has come down to room temperature, we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to transfer everything from our pot into our fermenter. I've had varying degrees of success, but I do know that I am going to take the fruit out first, put them in a separate bowl, and then pour in the liquid. That will give me a good idea as to just how much actual juice I've got and how much additional water I'm going to need to add. All right, let's see how good I am this time. All right, not bad. The trick is to remove the fruit first. Now we can go ahead and drop our fruit back in. This is usually when it gets... Oh, you're right, I stand corrected. Before putting in our fruit, I'm going to add in the remainder, or nearly the remainder of our water to bring us up to at least 1 gallon or 4 liters, depending on how you look at it, in our fermenter. I've already got that level marked off. That gives me 1 gallon, which leaves me with, I don't know, about a cup of water left. Now, actually, I'm going to add in about half a cup. So it should give me about half a cup extra at the end, which when I rack it in the secondary, I can then take the remainder above the least layer and freeze it and use that in subsequent rackings to make up the difference and reduce the amount of headspace. So those go in. And now we can go ahead and add in our oranges and lemon. All right, we can now begin the process of adding our acid blend substitute, which will give our Melomel a little bit of brightness at the end. And we can now go ahead and add that to the fermenter. All right, once you've got in as much as you're going to get, our next step is going to be to take a hydrometer reading. All right, looks like our hydrometer reading is coming in at 1.072. Okay, we're going to take the opportunity to give this a real good vigorous stir. And the reason for that is to incorporate some additional oxygen into the mix. And instead of just mixing things up as it's being done now, you really want to give it a good vigorous, let's whip up some oxygen into the mix kind of stir. Now another way of doing it would be to do it like this. I mean, seriously, we're talking about, let's get some air in there, because that yeast is going to need this additional oxygen to help it out and breathe a little bit. Now actually over the course of the next 3 days, we want to give it again a good vigorous stir and kind of punch down and kind of squeeze out the bags, the straining bags using your spoon. But right now we really want to just give it a little bit more oxygen. And now we can go ahead and begin the process of adding in our yeast. We're going to be using a quart of a yeast. And although sometimes it does happen, it did not get included in the ingredients section of the video, but I'm using a Red Star Premier Blanc wine yeast, quarter of a teaspoon. And just sprinkle that around without dumping it all in one spot. And then we want to label it. Now again, this particular fermenter does have its own built-in airlock, so I don't need to incorporate one. So that'll take care of that. But definitely when we do rack this in the secondary, we will need an airlock to let CO2 escape. So let's go ahead and label this, and then we can wrap this video up. Now, one of the last things we need to do is that we need to label our creation with some basic information. What we want to know is a couple of things. Okay, I guess that will be close enough. We are making a pineapple orange Melomel. We started it on this date, and our original gravity reading was 1.072. Now all we need to do is to put it aside again. If I can zoom out here a little bit, is to, is that for the next 3 days at least, come back in and again, give it a good vigorous little stir to get some more oxygen into the mix. Again, we are not using any yeast energizers or yeast nutrients, so that little bit of oxygen is generally all that I've been able to do and get my meads to work successfully. After that, you can just go ahead and leave it alone. After 5 to 7 days, your choice, you can go ahead and remove the fruit and rack it into your secondary and continue on the fermentation process from there, which should last several more months. And after, usually I'll let it go for about 12 months. I find that to be a sweet spot for most of my wines and meads. We'll go ahead and degas it if necessary. We'll back sweeten it if necessary. We'll then bottle it, and usually I am now pasteurizing my wines just to be on the safe side. Better safe than sorry. And there we go. That's the process for making a pineapple orange Melomel. At a very, very simplistic level. Once you've gotten this part down pat, then you can advance to more advanced techniques in your wines and meads. Okay, here it is now 13 months later, and we're going to go ahead and give our pineapple orange Melomel a try. We're going to try and make this one really quick because I noticed that the first part of this video went a good 18 minutes, and that's after I edited out 3 additional minutes. So we'll try and keep this one short. Let's see, born date 7/20/21. ABV came in at 10.5%, and it's been pasteurized. Actually, this is one of the ones where I was still doing pasteurization in the bottle instead of in the carboy with my meads. So this one will have, which I just stirred up, a layer of sediment on the bottom of the bottle. Don't have that problem much these days, but there we go. Until I stirred it up, it was clear. It was very clear. But again, like I said, we're going to get right to the chase on this one. Was it worth the wait? And if you've not seen any of my videos, yes, I do have a waiter's key, corkscrew. So I just use it interchangeably. All right. Always have to do that initial sniff test to make sure that it might be drinkable. This one ended up being carbonated, which was not the intent. But that's okay. It's a very light carbonation because after 13 months, it didn't pop the cork and enter the bottles. Yep, pineapple. Not so much orange, then alcohol. You know, were it not for that light pineapple orange flavor, it's got good flavor in both fruits. You would almost think, because of the accidental effervescence, I put it that way, you'd almost think you were drinking champagne. Yep. It's because I back sweeten it to my taste, and that might vary from bottle to bottle. I would say that it came in at slightly semi-dry, which is fine by me. The reason why I don't put the amount of back sweetening amounts of honey or sugar or whatever in my recipes is because, I mean, that's entirely up to your taste buds as to how sweet or how dry you like it. So I usually leave that plain. All of my wines go to dry. Well, 90% of them go to dry, and then I back sweeten the taste. But this one, is good. I've got 4 more bottles of this too. Yeah, this one is good. I think it works either way, whether the unintended, probably I didn't degas it properly. I'm surprised that that the carbonation survived the pasteurization process. That usually drives out most of the remaining. But yeah, this turned out quite well. Again, if you want to give a pineapple orange Melomel a shot, at least following the process that I did, and the only change to the process, that was it. The only change to the process that I make these days that I didn't do, well, 2 changes. One is that I now use a homemade yeast nutrient with all of my wines and meads now, and I have a video on that. And 2, I now pasteurize at least the meads in the carboy and not in the bottle. I'll pasteurize in the carboy, let the honey solids settle out, usually takes a day or 2, and then I'll go ahead and rack them in the bottles, and that would be that. Nice clear bottles with no sedimentation to have to worry about. But again, hey, this is good. Oh, if I didn't have things I had to do later on today, I would definitely finish this off quite early. But nope, can't do it. I have to save this till I get back later on this evening. But most definitely, yeah, this is one that you don't need to pair with any foods or anything. This is one you can just crack open and enjoy. So again, very short video this time. If you'd like to see here, please click on the subscribe and notify buttons. Better yet, become a member. Better yet, become a patron. And even better, now that YouTube has this feature available, click on the thanks button. Make a small donation if you like this video or any of my subsequent videos. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.